I sat down and smiled. The cafe was beautiful. The morning light came through the tall windows. I felt good. I felt confident. If you enjoy real English stories like this, you can subscribe to the channel. It really helps me share more moments like this. Then I noticed something. The woman at the next table looked at me. Her eyes stayed on me for a moment too long. A man near the door whispered something to the waitress. The waitress looked my way. She had a small notebook in her hand and she stopped writing. Something felt wrong. But I didn't know what. I just sat there and looked at the menu. I thought I did the right thing. I didn't. My name is Sofia. I am from a small city in northern Italy, near Verona. I came to Edinburgh for 10 days, alone. My first trip to an English-speaking country. I studied English in school, yes. But school English and real English are very different things. In school, everything is slow. Everything is clear. In real life, people talk fast. They use words I never heard. They expect you to understand everything immediately. I wanted to do things right. I practiced phrases before I left Italy. On the plane, I repeated small sentences in my head. Excuse me. Can I have the menu, please? How much is this? I was afraid of making mistakes. Not because I was shy, but because I didn't want people to think I was rude. In Italy, we are warm and direct. But I knew that in Britain, politeness has different rules, and I didn't always know those rules. That morning, I walked a long way from my hotel. I wanted to find a real local cafe, not a tourist place. I walked down a narrow street near the Royal Mile. I saw a small cafe with wooden tables and a hand-painted sign. It looked warm. It looked calm. It looked perfect. I walked in. The cafe was full of soft noise, coffee machines, quiet voices, chairs moving on the floor. There were maybe 12 tables. Some had people. Some were empty. A young woman near the door saw me come in. She had dark hair and a green apron. She smiled and said, "Good morning. Take a seat." I understood those words. I knew take. I knew seat. A seat is a chair. Take a seat. Sit down. Simple. I felt a small wave of relief in my chest. She told me to sit, so I sat. I walked to a table near the window. It was a nice table, a small round one with 2 chairs. One chair had a cream-colored jacket on it, but I didn't think much about that. Maybe someone left it before. Maybe it was extra. I put my bag on the floor, sat down, and picked up the menu. The light was lovely. The coffee smelled wonderful. I started to relax. That was when people started looking. At first, it was small things. The woman with dark hair and the green apron walked past my table twice. She didn't say anything, but she looked at me in a way that felt different from a normal look. A little long, a little careful. A man at the table next to me moved in his chair and looked at the jacket on the empty seat beside me. Then he looked at his watch. He looked at the door. He didn't look at me directly, but I felt it. I told myself, "You are imagining this, Sofia. You are nervous. Everything is fine." I looked at the menu. I tried to focus, but something inside me was not calm. A few minutes passed. Then a woman walked into the cafe. She was maybe 50 years old. She had a red coat and short gray hair. She walked directly toward my table. She looked at the jacket on the chair. Then she looked at me. She said, "Excuse me, I think this is my table." I looked up. My heart jumped. I said, "Sorry?" She pointed at the jacket. "That's mine. I was sitting here. I just went to the bathroom." I felt my face go warm. I said, "Oh, I am very sorry. I did not know." She was not angry, but she was not warm either. She said, "It's fine," and sat down in the chair with the jacket. I stood up. I didn't know where to go. I picked up my bag. I stood next to my chair like a lost child in a supermarket. People at nearby tables looked at me for a moment, then looked away. That is almost worse than people staring. Looking away quickly means they saw something embarrassing. I felt small. I walked toward the young woman with the green apron. She was standing near a small wooden desk by the door. I didn't know what I was going to say. My English felt far away, locked in another room. I said, "Excuse me, I am sorry, I sat at the wrong place, I think." She looked at me with kind eyes. She said, "Don't worry. Did you come in a few minutes ago?" I said, "Yes." You said, "Take a seat." So I sat. She paused. Then she said gently, "Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I wasn't clear. When I say take a seat, I usually mean, wait here for a moment and I'll take you to a table. I seat the guests myself." I blinked. I said, "Can you say that again, please? Slowly?" She smiled. She said it again, slower. "I show guests to their table. I didn't show you your table yet. I'm sorry. That was my fault too." I said, "So, I cannot choose my own table?" She said, "In this cafe, no. We have a system. Some tables are reserved. Some are for 2 people, some for 4. I manage it." She paused and added, "But you didn't know. That's completely okay." I exhaled. Something in my chest released. I said, "In Italy, I always choose my own table. I did not think it was different here." She laughed softly. Not at me, just a human laugh. She said, "That makes total sense. Different places do it differently." Then she looked at her small book. She said, "There's a nice table free near the back, a little quieter. Can I take you there?" I said, "Yes, thank you, very much." And she walked me there. The table near the back was small and square. It was beside a bookshelf full of old books with soft, worn covers. There was a little glass with dried flowers on the table. It was actually nicer than the window table. I sat down. I put my hands flat on the table. I took a slow breath. I felt my shoulders drop. My whole body had been tense for the last 10 minutes and I hadn't even noticed. Now I noticed, because it stopped. I looked at them, but now they looked different. Now I could actually read them. A different waitress came to my table. She was younger, maybe 20, with a lot of small gold earrings. She said, "Ready to order?" I said, "Yes. A flat white, please." She wrote it down and walked away. I sat back in my chair. Then I did something I didn't expect. I laughed, just a small, quiet laugh, almost to myself. Because it was so simple. 2 words. 2 normal, simple words. I knew both of them. But I didn't know what they meant in that moment, in that context, in that specific kind of cafe in Edinburgh. The language wasn't hard. The situation was hard. My coffee came. It was hot and strong and very good. The toast came with real butter and a small pot of orange marmalade. I ate slowly. I looked at the room. I watched the young woman with the green apron walk other guests to their tables. Every time she said something first, she pointed, she showed them. Now I understood the system. Now it was obvious. But 10 minutes before, it wasn't obvious at all. And that was the strange thing about being in a foreign country. Not just a foreign language, a foreign system, foreign habits, foreign ways of doing normal things. Before I left Italy, my friend Laura said to me, "Sofia, you will make mistakes. That's okay. Just don't be afraid to ask." I remembered that in the plane. I remembered it now again, sitting in this cafe in Edinburgh with my coffee and my toast. I made a mistake. I asked. Someone helped me. That was enough. Near the end of my coffee, the young woman with the green apron passed my table. She stopped for a second and said, "Everything okay?" I said, "Yes. Everything is good. The coffee is wonderful." She smiled. "I'm glad. Enjoy." She walked away. And just before she turned, I thought I saw her smile again. Not a professional smile. A real one. Maybe she had seen that kind of moment before. A traveler, alone, doing her best. Or maybe she just liked that I asked for help, that I didn't pretend. That afternoon, I walked for a long time along the water of Leith. I thought about the cafe. I thought about those 2 words. I thought about how language is not only vocabulary, it is timing and place and culture and habit. You can know every word in the dictionary and still stand in the middle of a cafe holding your bag, not knowing where to sit. I was still imperfect. My English was still slow and small and sometimes wrong. But I walked back to my hotel that evening and I felt something different from the morning. Not confident exactly, not fluent, but braver. A little braver. And I thought, that is enough for today. Tomorrow there will be new words, new phrases, new small mistakes. Have you ever said something in English and only understood it fully after the moment passed? That feeling of, oh, that is what they meant. I think many of us know it. If this story felt familiar to you, even a little, you are not alone. Have you ever misunderstood something in English like this? Tell me in the comments. I would really like to read your story. If you enjoy real stories like this, you can subscribe to the channel. There is a new story every day, and maybe the next one will feel like your own life. I am really glad you were here today.